Hello and welcome back to the Scale Debate, the only show brave enough to ask, why is retail embracing something that the consumer never really asks for? Seems like a fair question. If we really did ask this, would we ever get any actual work done? So now we're getting into the business and the debate and wondering if a new victor will emerge this week. Stay tuned for more. We did take a week off for Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you had some great turkey. If you're in Canada, you had Thanksgiving a while back. Don't worry, Agentic Commerce did not take a week off. Some of those numbers, crazy. There was huge usage gains, and it spent the entire holiday season making decisions for you. Almost like a clinging ex that remembered your old Wi-Fi password. Oof. Our reigning champ this week is Suze Dowling. Just claimed her first gong the last day out. Can she make it 2 for 2 in a row? Or will the Agentic Backlash actually claim its first victim? So today, we're actually going to dive into tonight's question. No one asked for Agentic Commerce. What's the potential backlash? As a reminder, this debate series is sponsored by SCAYLE, the e-commerce platform built for enterprise retail. Replatform in under 7 months, launch new markets in minutes, and even execute your most ambitious promotions fast. No more bottlenecks, no more pain, just a platform that really works. I'm Rick Watson, your referee, narrator, and the only agent you can trust not to reorder toilet paper without your permission. At the end of the day, agentic commerce means a lot of things to different people. Some people think it means more autonomous purchasing, almost like the subscription you never actually wanted, but shows up at your house anyway, like a predictive thing. The other side, it's more agentic commerce could be anywhere in the purchase journey, meaning research, discovery, all those things that happen in the fuzzy front end of retail that we always tend to sweep under the rug, but in our heart of hearts, we actually understand that it takes many touch points and connections and trust building events with the consumer to actually nail that final purchase. With that, what you've all been waiting for, we have a number of great panelists today. As if you've been in the other debates, you understand the format. First up, the fighting man from South Carolina, Matt Ezyk.
I think there's a huge potential for backlash. If AI agents commoditize brand experiences, retailers essentially become invisible. AI agents could reduce retail brands to interchangeable SKUs, right? Trust and emotional connection can disappear if AI is dominating all of this selection. So brands need to own data pipelines to really ensure that they are visible.
Matt really bring home the fact that you need to understand where can agentic commerce really cross a line. When does it stop serving and start steering? And so will customers tolerate you shopping on your behalf with thrown in with maybe a little bit of side of manipulation here? But his real point is that convenience is a great thing to have for everyone until it actually becomes control and a little bit frustrating for the consumer. Consumers will revolt when potentially the future feels a little like surveillance instead of service. In other words, how do you make these non-human experiences seem more human? Ironic in the age of agentic, isn't it? Next up, we have Rob Garf, who frames agentic commerce as a risk if you're misaligned with brand trust.
No customer, as in like human, has said, I want to use agentic commerce, right? That's true. I don't think customers think about it that way. I know I don't. I think, first of all, it's going to take the big platforms to make the consumers change, right? An individual brand is going to have a hard time to change shopping behavior. But when Google, Amazon, TikTok, Instagram, and others weave this or embed agentic into the shopping equation just to make their life, the consumer's life, easier. That's where you see adoption. I go back to, and actually I had a client who was one of the biggest department store retailers in our country. Their CMO remind me with an engagement I had with him and his team. He came in every day saying, what problem are we solving on behalf of the customer? And I think that's the critical question there. What problem are we solving? And if we can use AI to help solve that problem, amazing. If it's a shiny object that looks really cool and demos really well, I'd be more suspect of it. And I think that's what I'm hearing across the board in general is, there's some debate whether AI is going to help the top line growth or the bottom line cost. And what I'm hearing is it's both. And in order for it to hit both is you need to understand the customer experience and what's broken. And if we can use AI to help fix it, amen.
Rob Garf drops consumer psychology into this and makes a fascinating and an interesting point, I think. The big platforms over time definitely move consumer expectations. And when we saw way back in the 2000s, Amazon's move to 2-day delivery changed e-commerce and moved to 1 day and then hourly. Those things become just part of doing business in the future. So that trust and emotional context, if the big platforms weave agentic commerce, it can make it more easy for consumers to adopt it. So ultimately, trust is fragile and nothing breaks it faster than a bot that thinks it knows your life goals. So is it helping? Agentic commerce, we have been on this huge move towards convenience. And if you can make things more convenient for the consumer, then a lot of times they'll buy more and more often, particularly if it shows up quickly. I mean, that's historically the Amazon formula. Thank you, Rob, for your contribution. Appreciate those great points. If you loved Rob's arguments, definitely remember this for your voting, which we're going to vote for everyone at the end of this as a reminder. Next up, we have Suze Dowling, who is undefeated at cutting through nonsense and getting to the real heart of the matter.
Customers may not have asked for it, but they also didn't say, hey guys, I want one-click checkout. They didn't say, oh, I want to buy now, pay later offering. It's something that, again, saves them, time or friction or made their life simpler. And then it just becomes the new normal, right? And again, I think whether you're making a physical product or in this case, talking about the world of digital, all comes down to understanding the customer and how we put themselves in our shoes. And so I think the question is not is agentic commerce going to stick and is there going to be some backlash here? I think the question is, how do we introduce this? Because I think the backlash itself is never going to come from the technology. I think it's from trust in that, right? And I think this is where if an AI agent is starting to make some really opaque decisions. So it's adding something to their cart without an explanation or recommending some product without context. I mean, of course, customers are going to resist. I would resist. And I feel like we're pretty deep in this world. I think no one ever wants to feel manipulated. But if I think an agent says to you, I noticed that you buy detergent every 6 weeks, you're about to run out. Would you like me to reorder? I don't think that feels particularly creepy. I think it actually is something that's helpful. And so again, I think in the early days of anything, someone might feel a bit nervous and there might be some hesitation. I mean, even just think about subscriptions. It's so the norm now. But when it first rolled out, that was something that I think felt a little nerve-wracking for customers, right? They felt a little tricked or they thought it was just locking you into something. But I think in that case, right, it was how the brands framed it around the utility of never running out of something again. And then adoption took off and then it compounded. And honestly, I think it's the same, mechanic. It's just a different framing. I think it's how does agentic commerce follow that same arc? So yeah, sure, there's going to be some backlash. I mean, also, people just love to be grumpy. There's always going to be a naysayer there. that's normal. You're introducing something that's new and unfamiliar. But I think the tipping point for us is going to be, how do people experience that upside? And that might be giving them back time, or, reducing that mental load. And I think that's where we'll see, skepticism fade out, and it's just going to become almost that invisible infrastructure, just the way that, one-click checkout is invisible today and is just part of the norm. So I think it's more, to me, this question of how. I think today it's bots, tomorrow who knows what it's going to be, and I think that's really exciting, and it's here to stay, and it's here to serve the customer as we should be. So it's just, how do we introduce this and frame this?
Thank you, Suze. She gives us a few things to think about here. One is that regardless of what we think, this is actually not going anywhere for a while, so it's may as well get used to it. That's kind of number one. She leads off talking a little bit about some of the themes that Rob mentioned also, which is understanding the consumer. How do you make their life more simple and convenient? And then if there is backlash, Suze argues that it will come from lack of trust, meaning, are you doing things that are not easily explainable? Does the consumer feel like you're just pushing an ad on someone, when really this is a different modality than the typical Google search, where, I'll be honest, the average consumer probably doesn't know those things are sponsored, but most people understand that the top 2 or 3 are ads. But Google's not really saying this is the best answer, like in a conversation with you. And if your AI is supposed to be your trusted buddy, then if you feel like your trusted buddy is actually bought and paid for by a big brand and you're not going to find the best results, you could be in trouble real fast, and that could cause a backlash. So definitely thank you, Suze, for your contribution. Remember, Suze, if you would like to vote for her later. Mr. Finnegan, the anthropologist in the group, not an apologist. Really, we were okay getting our new iPhone and letting that enter our life. Why will this be any different? Let's hear from Dave.
Agentic Commerce, that's where I'm really bullish, actually. Yeah, no one asked for it. No one asked for smartphones or electricity either before they came on the scene. But the reason that they showed up is because they solve cultural pain. They solve cultural problems. So if we think about agents and why agents will show up, it isn't because people are asking for them. It's because the problems that they solve are important to us. If we think about what your shopping behavior is, or when you're setting up to go on a trip or that type of thing, all of the choices that you have and all of the things that you have to do to research certain things and understand different aspects of your journey or different aspects of a product, for example, that can get overwhelming, and it's certainly time consuming, right? And there's a lot of marketing noise that's in there too. So I think the backlash will come if retailers treat an agent interaction like they did a human interaction. In other words, all of our interactions today, for the most part, are optimized for someone with a smart device in their hand or sitting at a desk with a mouse, right? And they're not optimized for an agent-to-agent conversation, an agent who's negotiating on our behalf. So I think the real winners in the future are going to be those that think about what the agent-to-agent conversation is and make sure that they have trust protocols and APIs in place and the right structured data to make those protocols, or excuse me, to make those interactions most meaningful. I think those who don't do that are going to have lost sales, and more importantly, they're going to have a dangerous dependency on the AI gatekeepers in the world that say whether their product is good or not.
Dave is fascinating. Always the anthropologist talking about what important problems are you solving for consumers? So there is a line between convenience and coercion. And thank you, Garish, in the comments saying Agentic is not really solving any real business challenge or consumer issue. But, is that really the case? Garish, maybe if we have another debate, you'll be a panelist. But right now, unfortunately, your comments are just on the sidelines. So thank you for your contribution. Dave talks to us. He's super bullish on Agentic, does not feel like there's going to be any backlash. And so I think that's definitely a big change from some of the other debaters today. So if you are super bullish on Agentic and don't feel like there's going to be a lot of backlash, then Dave is your man. Really send your vote there. Next up is our previous champion, Lee Trotter. He had a 2-week streak in the past. He actually frames the backlash as a natural human response to feeling out of control and warns that brands must balance agency and autonomy. Can the agent do enough to be useful, but not so much that the user feels powerless? Let's hear what Lee has to say.
Agentic commerce, when you tie in AI, it's an interesting thing. So, I mean, I use AI pretty much every day in some form or another, right? A lot of times it's for analysis and things. And I listened to a talk where the person said, AI is going to get it wrong every now and then, and everyone's all worried about that. And he said, but you can talk to a person, like a normal human being, and they're going to get things wrong too. So why shouldn't we accept that AI on occasion is going to be wrong, much like a human interaction? Like, okay, that's a good point. So I'd made that point to a friend of mine, and they said, okay, but if someone is confidently wrong to me 2 or 3 times, I'm going to stop going to them for advice. And that's also very important to note there. If your AI is constantly wrong, do you actually want to continue to ask that AI a question, right? If you have to validate everything that they say, it's probably somewhere between the two. So agentic commerce is interesting. So let's take flights as an example, or hotel bookings, right? If you travel, you might have very specific models of how you travel. Let's say I'm traveling for business, so I need an early flight, but I don't want to do a connection. But every now and then I'm okay with a connection if other things line up. How does agentic commerce know what I'm thinking there for booking that flight? Because they don't actually know how I think. And what can then happen? So that's the danger of that type of thing. Where it gets even more problematic is where you now get agentic commerce into buying on behalf of for people, where it's like, I need a product, so go and buy this product for me. We all know that social media can influence what's going to be bought by people. So rather than you doing research and saying, hey, this is the actual product I want, maybe it's the 3rd one down or the 4th one down in your traditional search results, and agentic commerce just goes, oh, based on your criteria, this is the best product, and it goes and buys it. And you don't even know about the 4th product. And if you're the brand that owns that 4th product and you know you're a better product, how do you get it up in front of the agentic commerce so that it's actually the one that your customers are going to be best suited for and gives the best experience to those types of customers that are like, just they want it simple, but they also want the best product, right? And that's really hard. That's a really hard division to do between those two right now. Will it get there? It could get there, but I don't see it getting there yet, right? I'm not ready, and I think a lot of people aren't ready to let the machine actually make the final decision for us. We still want that review. We still want to know what other options were in there, right? If I'm ever researching a product, show me everything you looked at prior to me making a decision. And sometimes it might be the top 1 or 2 results, and sometimes it might be the 3rd or 4th one because, hey, I found a feature in there that I didn't even know I wanted until I read about that feature, right? And that's the risk of missing agentic with agentic commerce, is your requirements can change during that process, and it isn't necessarily going to capture those.
Thank you, Lee. Definitely there are more constraints on AI when it buys for you. And I think as someone who Lee mentions, he uses AI every day, one of the things that can cause a backlash against AI is when the machine is consistently wrong confidently. And the more confident the AI is about a spectacularly wrong answer because it had bad data, the worse you're going to trust it. And so I think that's a challenge. And there was a discussion that Lee brought up about agentic commerce optimization, meaning how do brands who are sure that their best product, by the way, I've never met a brand marketer who isn't sure they have the best product. The problem is they don't actually get to judge. It's not up to them. It's up to the consumer. They're in the driver's seat. And so the fact that a brand is trying to figure out how to game the system is almost a little bit of a warning sign already for agentic commerce, because we're not going to have the pure results potentially that the consumer is looking for. We're going to have manipulated results, which could cause another kind of backlash. So thank you, Lee, for your comments. Definitely some deep thoughts about agentic and AI. In terms of the debate, this actually wraps our debate. We have upcoming a list of people. These are the people in the debate, what they have done. Just as a reminder for you, we're going to show all the quotes from people, and then we're going to put up the poll. Get your votes in. We'll be launching the poll now with some trendy mood music. Well, isn't this interesting? The winner and new champion, the fighting man from South Carolina, Matt Ezyk. Cue Matt. He definitely gave us some pithy remarks, as Matt is often wont to do, and say, yeah, this could go wrong, and we need to worry about it. So if you're the skeptic, Matt was your guy today, and he definitely brought home the trophy. So kudos to Matt. It was definitely a very close voting, as you can tell. Rob and then Dave also got some great votes as well. As we wrap up our debate, just a reminder, consumers want to feel smart, like you're making things more convenient for them and you're not misleading them. So I think that is a big challenge. They want to feel empowered, not enrolled in some program, helped, but not handled. We had today in our debate 5 strong perspectives. We have a new reigning champion in Matt Ezyk, and an audience. We didn't ask for agents, but it's pretty cool. I think most of us use it every day, especially in this techie audience. So glad you were able to join us today. Join us next week for the next topic. And reminding you, I'm Rick Watson. In retail, the future arrives early and usually uninvited. Thanks again for joining us.